What is going on, guys? This is Ryan, aka Wags, bringing you guys another deck tech video for the Brothers Dimm. This is a deck that I have played a few times, and it's going to get posted with a couple of gameplay videos with me piloting this deck, so you can kind of see how it works in an actual game and see how these cards and interactions all work. I'm really excited about this deck, mainly because it has one of my favorite characters from the new set in Enfys Wat. I think as a big, she's 18 points for Elite, so she would be considered a big. I think she's kind of going untouched right now just because everyone seems to be on Palpatine or Phasma with good reason, because both of those cards are extremely strong, especially Palpatine right now. And so for that reason, I think Enfys is kind of sliding under the radar. I think she has the potential to be an extremely powerful character. I'm going to explain why in a little bit. But she's awesome. I've really enjoyed playing her, and I think she pairs well with Wat who, in my opinion, is the best support character from the set. Sorry for you Watto enthusiasts out there. I'm a big Wat fan, and again, I'm going to explain why, especially as it applies to this deck. So, without further ado, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to explain kind of why I have these cards here, why they're here, as well as some maybe potential alternates that we can use instead. So here we go. So first and foremost, we are playing on the Salt Flats, which, if you saw my last deck tech video, I talked about it a little bit. It is probably the best battlefield in this new set, if not the best battlefield available right now after the feed nerf, just because of what it brings to the table. So if I'm controlling this, both Enfys and Wat are leaders. So the power action with turning a leader die to any side, that applies to either of them. So I can get Enfys on damage, I can get Enfys on resources, I can get Wat on 2 focus. So that's really strong with the two of them. But also just the turn a die to a side showing a blank. It can't be understated how important or how big that could be. There's been so many games where that power action has gotten me out of a heap load of damage, or I've been able to blank a 2 focus, something like that, just to cause them to reroll, and then they don't reroll into max, and then I'm able to kind of win the game based on that. So Salt Flats is awesome. Usually if the opponent wins the roll-off, they don't usually like to give me this, so taking 2 shields with this and creating a 14 health Enfys, or even if you want to split the shields, I mean, that's great too, just adding health to this deck. So going into the characters, we have Wat Techno Union Foreman. He is 912. We're using him as Elite. He's got 9 health. His dice are 1 indirect, 1 focus, 2 focus, 1 resource, and a blank. His power action says play a support from your hand, paying its cost, then roll that support's die into your pool. So it's basically the initial fist ability. So if you power action one of these down, you get to roll their die into the pool, and then you get to resolve that die, and then you get the activation of the support. So if you roll well, or if you can get to that a relevant side, you get 2 resolutions per support when you power action it in. So especially with something like Entourage that has that 2 resource side, if you can power action Entourage, get the 2 resource, resolve the 2 resource, and then activate it again, now you're just it's basically paying for itself right away. This ability works particularly well with Assassin Droid. So after you roll this die into your pool, you may deal 1 damage to a character. So it's not when you activate the support, it's when you roll the die into your pool. So you power action in, roll the die, ping a damage, resolve one of those 4 sides, then activate it, roll the die into the pool, ping another damage. So you're getting a ton of value from this if you can play that with his power action. His dice are pretty good too. He makes a lot of money, but more importantly, he's also kind of the focus beast of your deck. That 2 focus side is great in order to get Enfys to what you want from her. The 1 indirect, I could probably count on one hand how many times I've actually resolved that. So that's probably, between that and the blank, those are the only 2 sides that you really don't want to find. Everything else you're happy with, especially given the situation. If it's late game, you want the 2 focus. Early game, then you need a ramp. The resources are a great thing. So yeah, Wat is my favorite support character in the game right now. He's just really versatile. His power action is incredibly strong in a support deck, and I think he pairs extremely well with the Lady Enfys Nest, fearsome outlaw. She is a character scoundrel leader. She is 14-18. We were running her elite. She has 12 health, so she's pretty tanky. Her dice are 1 melee, 2 melee for 1, 3 melee for 1, 1 shield, 2 resources for 1, and a blank. Her passive is that you can include up to 2 villain and 2 hero cards in your deck. So in this case, we are running a villain deck, so the 2 hero cards I have elected to go with are Easy Pickings, which I'll talk about Easy Pickings in a little bit, but the reason I've gone with those 2 instead of maybe something like, I don't know, Impulsive or, I don't know, some hero support is because I think Easy Pickings just plays extremely well into the field right now. It's really good against the Trooper dice. It's really good against Palpatine with his 2 melee sides. So I think just in general, Easy Pickings, it's always been a strong card. I just think right now with all the aggro decks that we're kind of seeing and shaping around, I think Easy Pickings is even more strong, which is why I've gone with 2 of those. So Enfys' power action says you can resolve up to 3 of your scoundrel dice showing the same symbol for free, so you don't have to pay for it, which makes her just incredibly versatile. Everybody looks at her dice and say, oh, well, why do you want all those pay sides? And I think once you kind of get used to how she plays, they're basically not there. Turn 1 with her, depending on the matchup, right? So if we're against a Palpatine, we're going to want to put as much damage on him as possible. So we might be a little bit more aggro, going for the 3 melee sides and the 2 melee sides, and trying to just burst him down as fast as possible. But against another, like any other deck where I'm not really worried about them kind of building up and outramping us, I'm going to try for that 2 resource every time. There's been so many games that between Watts Focus or Salt Flats and being able to focus her or just natural rolling the 2 resources, where I've had 6 resources just from her rolling and then power actioning it for free. So 6 resources, and then I can afford any of these, and most of the time 2 of these, and on rare occasions I've been able to get several, or both entourages, 2 Fickles, just from entourage resolves as well. And after that, you're just cruising. I mean, if you get 2 big supports down turn 1, you're going to be in great shape. You don't have to worry about much after that. But like I said, her versatility is what makes her so amazing, right? The opponent kind of is on their shoes. Do I mitigate the 2 resources? Am I okay with taking 2 damage here from her? They're not really sure what your plan is, so you can kind of fly under the radar there, which is one of the reasons why I love her. You can kind of do anything. And she's tanky, 12 health. She does not die easily. The best part about this pairing right here is that your opponent can probably make a case for targeting either one of them first. Watt's 2 focus is extremely good, especially late game, to close out games. But Enfys is just a tank at what she does. She's just a beast. So it kind of puts your opponent in a bad spot. They don't know exactly who the right target is. And for you, it's just, you can just set your game plan based on that and what you're rolling. That's why I really like this pairing. So for our upgrades, we only run 3 of them. So Inferno Squad, ID10 Seeker Droid. I'm not really sold on this card. It's good for 1 cost. I really like it, especially just one of in my deck. It helps with adding focus for sure, and then looking at your opponent's hand and getting rid of threatening cards or killing their mitigation could be really strong as well, because then you're kind of set and you're safe. But it could be something different. I just don't know what I'd put in its place. It's performed relatively well. I think in the games that we're going to post, I think I got it down 1 time, and it ended up killing, I believe, Chris's last mitigation card in his hand. So it allowed me to just push like a ton of damage. Riot Shield is kind of a red staple at this point. It's a pseudo force illusion for red. It's just blocking 2 damage. Neither of these 2 are troopers, so you're not getting the full value out of it, but blocking 2 is blocking 2. If you can keep either one of these guys alive for an extra turn, or maybe even cause your opponent to resolve more dice to kill somebody than they normally would want to, that's what Riot Shield's there for. So, really good card right now. I'm sure everybody knows about it. It's just really good at what it does. It's the only thing it's the closest thing we have to Force Illusion right now, so we got to run with it. So for our supports, we have 10. The first two are assassin droids. I already told you guys kind of why the assassin droid is so good with Wat. You're just getting free damage, especially if you can resolve those range sides. You can come in with, I mean, max 6 damage right away from just power actioning it in, which is great. But you're okay with anywhere from like 3 damage to 6. The more, the better, obviously. But you really, the die is relatively lackluster. You're kind of paying just for the ability. The one disrupt could be good in certain spots, but I don't know if I've ever resolved it. And then blank blank, obviously can't resolve that. So you're definitely paying for its ability, which I think it's maxed out with Wat, as I already told you. Entourage is insane because it searches for itself. So after you play the support, you may search your deck for a scoundrel, reveal it, and add it to your hand. Shuffle your deck. Its die side is a 2 indirect, a 3 indirect, a 2 disrupt, a 2 resource, and a special. The special reads spot any number of scoundrels to deal that much damage to a character. So Entourage itself is a scoundrel. If you search for the second Entourage, and you can play that, now that you have 2 scoundrels on the table. Enfys Nest is a scoundrel, so that special is doing at least 3. If you search out some Fickle Mercenaries or Hired Muscle when that drops, which I think is actually this week, those are scoundrels for 1 cost. So this special can get extremely out of hand for relatively cheap. If you can get the 2 resource side, it's paying for 2/3 of itself already, and then you just go from there. So I've had a couple of Entourage specials deal like 6 damage, and it's just the opponent just looks at there's no answer. If they don't have mitigation, it's just good game at that point. So Entourage is really strong. It's really good. The good thing about this deck, another thing, is a lot of times Entourage decks take that route and they only go for Entourage. This deck has Mega Blasters in it as well, so that's Entourage. It's not just an all-in on Entourage, which is really strong and really good. There's been a couple games where I've only had Mega Blasters on the table and I've won pretty handedly. So you're not trying to get all of these down because you don't want to ramp too much with Enfys. Maybe a turn, potentially a turn and a half. But if you can get Mega Blasters down with maybe, say, an Assassin Droid, you should be good just focusing her damage, and you're just destroying characters. Like between Mega Blaster, Assassin Droid pings, and then 3 melee and 2 melee, you're just hacking guys up, and the game's not going to go on much longer. So this isn't a pure ramp deck, which maybe some Snoke decks would be, where they're just trying to continue to make money and get as many supports on the table. You don't need as many big supports with Enfys because of her dice. So just getting a Mega Blaster or an Entourage, you can take whatever route you have based on your opening hand. So again, I said versatile before when I was talking to her. The deck and the choices in here are also versatile. Ideally, you go either the Entourage route or the Mega Blaster route. Those are your big power supports. If you're against a 3-wide, you can mull for the Umbar and Hover Tank just to start kind of bursting down guys at a time. But every route that I've always taken is either Mega Blaster or Entourage. Don't feel that you have to get everything on the table in order to win, because it's not the case. After Entourage, we have Fickle Mercenaries. So for 1, these things are great. 1 range, 2 range, 3 range for 1. 2 disrupt, a discard, and a blank. The action is spend 2 resources to take control of the support. Any player can use this action. So your opponent can take these guys over if they have planned their turnout correctly. So you kind of have to maneuver when you're going to drop these guys down. Usually after they've spent their resources is when it's a safe time to play it. Or if they have 1 left, you can kind of tell that they're hanging on to mitigation. That's pretty safe to drop this down. When Hired Muscle comes out, I'm going to switch this for Hired Muscle. I'm thinking that Hired Muscle could be better just because they can't take it over, so the Entourage special is always doing consistent damage. But Hired Muscle is, if you've seen it, there's no blanks on it, costs 1. I don't know the die off the top of my head, but everything's a pay side. So everything costs 1. It's out of the new Allies of Necessity draft kit. It seems really strong. I haven't played it. I haven't proxied it or anything like that, so I'm not positive. But it could be something where I do a 1-and-1. 1 Hired Muscle, 1 Fickle. Just because I don't want to be poor with Hired Muscle. So we'll see. So 1 Imperial Officer is something that I just recently added. I'm not sure if I ever played it in the gameplay videos, but we'll have to check it out. Support Leader, so it is a leader. So it's 2 range for 1 focus, 1 disrupt, 1 resource, and a blank. After you activate this support, you may turn one of your trooper dice to any side. So the reason I put that in there is, for whatever reason, in case Wat dies first, if they target him, we still have kind of a focus machine when it comes to the Mega Blaster troopers. So they have 2 focus on their own, so it's not just relying on the ability. It could do damage if you roll the 2 for 1. I haven't tested it a lot yet. I've played a few games on TTS with it, and it's okay. It could maybe be another Umbaran hover tank, or I can see myself maybe just switching one of these for a hired muscle and getting the third or a different scoundrel in there. So I'm going to play a few more games with this, see how much I rely on it if Wat ever dies. But as of right now, it's a solid 2 cost. I like that it auto focuses the Mega Blasters to any side because they're susceptible to their blanks. So we'll see. So Mega Blaster Troopers, these guys are really good. They're the new big support of this set. Kind of their baby fists, if you will. So 1 range, 2 range, 3 indirect, 2 disrupt, blank, blank. So kind of lackluster for a 4 cost, but you're paying for the ability, which after you activate the support, roll 1, set aside First Order Stormtrooper die into your pool, or 2 First Order Stormtrooper dice if you spot a leader. Set aside those dice after they're resolved or removed. So both Wat and Enfys are leaders, so regardless if one character dies, the ability to get all of those dice in the pool is still on. So you don't really have to worry about losing that ability. If you lose the ability, you've already lost the game. So rolling in 3 dice when you're activating one of these guys. Non-unique. I've never had a game yet where I've gotten 4 or both of these guys on the table, but it's definitely possible. The amount of money you make in this deck is a lot, so it's definitely possible to get both and then just murder guys. Yeah, so these guys pair well with Imperial officers. I would not take these out. These things are just way too powerful right now. And like I said, there's been games where I've only had 1 of these on the table with Enfys and Wat, and I've won really handedly, like not even a game. So these guys are really good. And then lastly, we have the Umbaran hover tank. So this is more in the 3-wide. If you start running into Snoke decks or 3-wide metas, that's what this is for. It's a 3 cost, 2 range, 3 indirect, 2 disrupt, 1 resource, and then 1 special for a resource. The special states deal 2 damage to each of an opponent's characters, or 3 if there are 1 or more mods on this support. I don't run mods in this, so you're only looking at 2 per character, which is why I'm not going to play this unless I'm against a 3-wide deck. That's where you're going to get the true values if you can get 6 damage off the special. Otherwise, if you're against a 2-wide deck, I'm just going to put all the emphasis on either Mega Blaster Troopers or Entourage or Assassin Droids, because it just can wipe guys out really quickly. So Umbaran's more of a safety net against 3-wide decks if Snoke starts or keeps being Snoke, and or Afro decks rise up in popularity. That's what the Umbaran hover tank is there for. We don't have a Force Wave because we don't have a blue guy, so we got to kind of improvise there. So our event package, we have 17 events. We have a Sinister Piece. I put that in my Afro deck. I really like this card. It kind of feels awkward at times in this deck just because you don't necessarily always want to discard one of these things. So it's kind of tough to maneuver around. There are a couple cards, a couple events that you don't really mind pitching to remove a threatening die. But 0 cost villain red removal. Discard a card from your hand to remove a die showing a value of 2 or more. So really strong. Just it gets kind of awkward when you're trying to determine which card to pitch from your hand. I mentioned, if you watched my last deck tech video with Afra, I mentioned that I really liked Sinister Piece in that deck because there were uniques in there. There were a bunch of other cards that you didn't really care about pitching away. This, you have to be a little bit more picky with what you throw away. Like, you don't really want to throw away a Riot Shield, especially if Enfys is taking a lot of damage. You don't ever want to throw away a Mega Blaster or an Entourage. So it's kind of, you got to kind of really think through the decision and saying, is making sure that's your best line of play. We have 2 Doubts. So Doubt is a 0 cost. It's been reprinted 50 times by now. Re-roll an opponent's die, then that opponent either resolves that die or removes it. So it's always strong, kind of gambling. That's why it's a 0 cost. It is really strong right now. I think there's a lot of pay sides going around. So if you re-roll an Enfys die, for instance, and she lands on that pay side, she can't power action. It's either you pay for it or you have to remove it if you have no resources. So if you're against Enfys or one of the, I've doubted a hired muscle before when the person had 0 resources on TTS. A lot of the lightsabers or upgrades have modified size. So doubt's pretty strong. It's not in a bad spot, which is why I'm cool with including both of those copies. Easy Pickings. So Easy Pickings is the hero cards that I've chose to include with Enfys' ability. So spot yellow to remove 2 dice showing the same symbol and value. So Easy Pickings is just probably the premier removal for yellow heroes still. It's just a blowout card and just kills rounds. And like I said, the reason I'm including both copies is because it's just so strong right now with all the characters going around. It's really good against Palpatine. It's really good against Phasma. It's really good against like Han Solo. All those guys. I know Han's kind of taken a back seat, but all those guys have similar die sides. Enfys would be not a good candidate because she's got 6 different die sides. So it'd be really unlucky if you rolled into an Easy Pickings with her. Other guys kind of set themselves up a little bit more, which is why I really think Easy Pickings is in a good spot right now. Entangle, so one of Entangle, spot yellow character to remove up to 2 dice showing a combined value of 3 or less. This could possibly go up to a 2 of just because it's blowout potential again, and it's really strong right now into the field. It's just a 1 of right now for money interest or money reasons because you kind of want to prioritize these guys in this deck and not so much avoiding damage. So there's a little less 0 cost removal as we had in that Afra deck. So 1 Entangle, again, testing is going to kind of see, do I need to bust it up to 2? But right now I'm confident with it being a 1 of just because it allows me to save some money. 2 times Indifferent. So Indifferent is spot a neutral to remove a die. So that's your spot removal for this card or for this deck. So Enfys is a neutral character, so she can, once you spot her, if she's live, that card is also live, and she's tanky, so she takes a while to get killed. So usually those cards are always live. The scary part about this deck that I've kind of noticed, I haven't had it bite me yet, but I'm sure with more testing and playing against other decks like Palpatine or something, it could. Most of my removal, so the big removal, so Indifferent, Entangle, Easy Pickings, and Risky Move, it's all spot yellow or spot neutral. So I have 2, 4, 6, 7 dead cards if Enfys dies, which not ideal, especially with a Risky Move. The reason I like Risky Move is because it's just a spot removal. There's no restrictions on it, whereas something like By Any Means, you have to spot a value of 2 or more. So that's why I choose to include Risky Move instead of cards like that. But if she dies and you've only played maybe one of those cards, you now know that you have 6 dead cards in your deck. So that could be a problem. It's something I definitely want to address or may need to address. I just haven't had it bite me yet. So once I, again, get a few more games in where Enfys dies round 2 by some fluke accident, and now I'm looking at a hand of Entangle, Easy Pickings, and Risky Move, and I'm just kind of waiting for Wat to get blown up, that'll make me reevaluate. But right now, that's the event package. It's definitely something I need to readdress and look at different alternatives because I shouldn't have 7 cards that rely on her. Just hasn't bit me yet, so I haven't gotten burned yet. Once that happens, I'm sure decisions will be changed real quickly. I have 2 Probe, so Probe is really good right now just because a lot of decks are event heavy. Really good into mill, obviously. Afro decks run a ton of events. The only deck that it's really not really good against right now is Palpatine, just because his event package is kind of a lot more tight because he's running a ton of upgrades. But Probe could be a good way to just kind of strip their hand of their last removal card and then just leave Palpatine or Phasma or anybody just completely wide open to get bursted down. That's what this card's there for, is just set up big blowout damage plays. And yeah, it's really good. Rendezvous. So I have since switched Rendezvous. I've taken that out and instead put in For a Price. So Rendezvous says resolve one of your dice, showing a cost, decreasing its cost by 1. So I was always thinking that I'd get into some cute plays where if I rolled a 3 melee and a 2 for 1 on Enfys, or the 2 resource for 1 on Enfys, I could Rendezvous, take my resources, and then power action the 3 for 1. I just haven't needed it. That's why it's usually been just a dead card or a very easy sinister piece kind of potential where I'm just sitting in this card and it's like I don't need it. So that's why. So for a price says you can turn one of your dice to a side showing a cost. So it's really good if she rolls maybe a 3 melee and a blank, or the shield side and you're trying to go for max value. You know that they don't have any removal because you probed them or something like that. So now you can just set up gigantic damage plays. So it's really good. For price is just an extra focus card. So that way you can save salt flats for them, or Wat Tambor's 2 focus can go to some of these supports. So that's why I've included that. So -2 Rendezvous, my +2 for a price. That's what I've got right now. Risky move, 1 cost, spot a yellow character to remove a die, and then the next card the opponent plays this round has the ambush keyword. That ambush thing has never bit me ever. I've played Risky Move for 2 sets now. I love it. I have never, no one's ever ambushed into like a winning move against me after I've played Risky Move. So I continue to put these in yellow decks just because it's really strong. It's just a spot yellow and then remove, which spot removal is great. And then finally we have Tactical Mastery. So Tactical Mastery is spot a red character to take up to 2 additional actions. That's the kind of the way that the action cheating in this deck works. So in one of the play videos that you'll see, I'm playing Chris's Kestamarin Rex deck, and that deck is the king of action cheating and getting all their dice in and resolving. And so I kind of in a spot where I need to kill Kess right away. I needed to get 2 damage or 1 damage left. I can't remember. And I had Tac Mastery in my hand. So I was able to Tac Mastery into a Mega Blaster Trooper, which I had the best odds of finding at least 1 damage. I think it was 1. Found 1 damage, killed Kess, and then ended up just kind of closing the game up from there because that deck kind of folds when Kess is dead. So really strong, especially with Enfys and her potential. If you can somehow get Wat and Enfys in the same. So if Wat's showing a 2 focus and you can get Enfys in maybe unassuming dice like a blank and a shield or something, or maybe the 1 melee, you can Tac Mast 2 focus into the 3 and the 3, and then power action for your second action, resolving 6 on a character, and that's just chopping guys up. That's not many people or not many characters, especially round 2 or 3, can just take 6 to the face and be okay with it. So Tac Mastery, insanely strong, especially in this deck, and it can close out just games or kill characters depending on different combos you have. All right, so that is my deck. It's the deck that I've been playing for the last couple of weeks here. I'll keep making changes. I will post a link to this deck list in the comments section of the YouTube video. So if you're interested to kind of check it out, make your changes. Let me know what you think of it. Let me know if you've made any changes or had success. Really interested to see your different builds and kind of different strategies that you've taken with Enfys, especially, just because I'm really in love with this character. I think she's incredibly strong, and like I said, she could be one of those sneaky plays that could sneak into a tournament win because everyone's focused on Palp and Phasma, and not many people have given her a chance, which is why I really like her. But thanks for watching, guys. Again, this is Ryan, aka Wags, with a deck tech video for Brothers Dimm. Check out our other videos. We've got a ton of content up lately, and we're going to keep trying to pound those out for you guys. So thanks for watching.